They said the blizzard would swallow anything left outside. In the mountains outside Cedar Ridge, winter didn't arrive gently. It attacked. Wind screamed through pine trees, snow slicing sideways in blinding sheets. And on that night, something fragile hung suspended between life and death. If you believe mercy sometimes arrives at the last possible second, stay with this story. Ethan Cole had chosen isolation. At 43, the former Navy SEAL lived in a weathered cabin miles from town, far from noise, far from memory. Years earlier, a mission overseas had ended in chaos. Men lost, decisions questioned, silence heavier than any metal. Reports called it unavoidable. Ethan called it his fault. The mountains demanded routine. Chop wood. Check traps. Reinforce shutters. Keep the fire steady. Order kept the past from creeping too close. That evening, as the storm thickened, Ethan stepped outside to secure loose planks rattling against the cabin wall. The wind carried something unnatural through its howl. A sharp, strangled sound, too thin to be timber, too desperate to be wind. He froze. It came again. Faint. Broken. Training shifted his body before thought did. He grabbed his flashlight and moved toward the tree line, boots sinking deep into fresh drifts. Snow clawed at his face, visibility collapsing to mere feet. Then the beam caught it. A shape swinging from a low branch. A dog. A large German shepherd hung by a rope looped cruelly beneath her ribs, back legs barely brushing snow hardened like ice. Her fur was crusted white, eyes glazed but open, breath shallow and ragged. Someone had tied her there and left her for the storm. Ethan's pulse thundered. He scanned automatically, no footprints fresh enough to follow. Whoever had done this had vanished. He stepped closer. The dog didn't growl. She didn't fight. She simply looked at him as if measuring whether he was another ending. Easy, he murmured, voice steady despite the fury building in his chest. He lifted her weight carefully to relieve pressure and cut the rope. Her body collapsed into his arms, shockingly light. Then he felt it. Her abdomen, swollen beneath frozen fur. Pregnant. The wind roared louder, but Ethan no longer felt the cold. No one gets left behind, he whispered. And for the first time in years he meant it. Inside the cabin, warmth battled the storm clawing at the walls. Ethan laid the dog beside the hearth, wrapping her in wool blankets, rubbing life back into trembling limbs. Her breathing rattled unevenly, each inhale uncertain, each exhale fragile. Up close the cruelty was clearer. Rope burns carved into her fur. Ice clung to whiskers. Starvation had hollowed her frame. Yet beneath the weakness something endured. He brought water first. She hesitated, then drank in careful, desperate laps. "You're safe," he said quietly, unsure who he was convincing. He cleaned the wounds with steady hands. Hands that once carried wounded soldiers now trembled over a creature someone had discarded. The irony was not lost on him. When she finally settled, exhaustion overtaking fear, Ethan noticed her abdomen tighten. A contraction. His chest tightened with it. The storm worsened. Power flickered. The cabin groaned under wind pressure. And beside the fire, life prepared to enter a world that had nearly ended it before it began. Hours passed in measured breaths and whispered reassurances. Ethan fed the fire constantly, refusing to let the heat dip even slightly. Outside, snow buried the world. Inside, the dog, he had begun calling her Mercy, shifted restlessly. The first puppy arrived just past midnight. Small, slick, silent for one terrifying second. Ethan froze. Then a tiny cry split the air. Mercy lifted her head weakly and began licking the fragile body with instinct stronger than exhaustion. Ethan swallowed hard, emotion rising without warning. The second followed quicker. Stronger. The third took longer. Too long. Panic pressed at old scars in Ethan's mind, memories of waiting for rescue that came seconds too late. He forced himself to breathe evenly. Stay present. "Come on, girl," he whispered. And then, a cry. Loud. Defiant. 3. All alive. Mercy collapsed back, panting, eyes locking onto Ethan's. In them was something he recognized. Not gratitude. Not fear. Trust. 3 tiny bodies pressed close to their mother, seeking warmth. Ethan sat back against the hearth, tears burning before he could stop them. Outside, the blizzard raged without mercy. Inside, mercy had won. Morning revealed a world remade in white silence. Snowdrift swallowed fences and buried roads. Ethan stood at the window, watching pale sunlight spill over a landscape that looked untouched, innocent. Inside, 3 newborn puppies squeaked softly against their mother's side. Mercy slept, exhausted but steady. Color had returned faintly to her gums. Survival had replaced desperation. For days Ethan rarely left the cabin. He rationed supplies carefully, melting snow for extra water, reinforcing insulation, tracking Mercy's recovery with the precision of a medic. The puppies grew stronger, their cries louder, their movements determined. But the storm's damage reached farther than his property. On the fourth morning, distant shouting broke the stillness. Ethan stepped outside to find 2 trucks stranded near the ridge road. A family trapped overnight, heater failed, their young daughter pale with cold. He didn't hesitate. He brought them inside. While Mercy watched quietly from her nest, Ethan worked through the crisis. Warming blankets, steady instructions, controlled urgency. The same calm that once led missions now saved neighbors. The little girl noticed the puppies first. Her weak smile flickered as one wriggled clumsily toward her mittened hand. "Are they going to be okay?" she asked softly. Ethan looked at Mercy. "They already are," he answered. Word spread quickly once roads cleared. The reclusive veteran who saved a dog, delivered 3 puppies, and sheltered a stranded family during the worst blizzard in years. But attention no longer felt like threat. Days later, a local search coordinator visited, impressed by Ethan's response and calm under pressure. They needed help in winter terrain. Skilled help. Ethan looked down at the boldest puppy, the one already alert to every sound. Purpose stirred where guilt once lived. That night, sitting beside the fire, Mercy rested her head on his boot. The puppies slept in a warm pile of soft breathing and tiny heartbeats. The mountain wind still howled beyond the walls. But inside something had shifted. Isolation had cracked. A rope meant to end a life had instead tied him back to one. And when spring finally came, it would not find him alone.